Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life with best-selling author and coach Kathy Williams, a show to help you tap into the support of the universe and access the abundance that's available in every area of your life. Listen in for conversations and tools to create more ease, joy, and possibility with family, relationships, business, and living. Kathy's joyful perspective will help you tap into your own wisdom and create a life of presence and abundance your way. Listen live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, or anytime on iTunes or at IOM FM.
Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everybody. I'm Kathy Williams and excited to explore today's topic, which actually inspired the name of the radio show. So today's topic is resistance and the gift in it, and the gift in exploring when we're resistant, or maybe our child is resistant, or someone in our life. And so we'll unpack that in just a moment. And I'll tell you the story of the show and the electric minivan that kind of like set me off. It was quite funny, actually, although at the time it was a little bit like, wow, for me and my husband. So before we get there, just a little bit about me. I am a coach, the creator of Radical Abundance, which is a program that helps unpeel all the money blocks, all the conflicted and crazy messages we've been given about receiving, about asking for what we want, about money, about creation, kind of unpeels those so that you can actually see what's true for you. And then explore your desires and what's in the way of those. And then help reshape your thinking so you can actually get what you want. And we actually have a Radical Abundance class that's just getting started, and you're welcome to check that out at meetkathyWilliams.com/Radical Abundance Online. And my name starts with a K, has a Y in it, and Williams ends with an S. So meetkathyWilliams.com/Radical Abundance Online. That website is also where you can reach out to me, suggest your show topics. I've already got people writing in telling me what they want to hear about on the show, and I'd love to hear your ideas too, because it's so much more fun, first off, not to have to think up show ideas, just have them handed to me, but also to really tap into what it is you desire, because I wouldn't be here on the radio if you weren't listening. So I appreciate that you are here listening, and I'm excited to explore the gift and resistance today. So here's the story. I actually talked to things. I talked to my car. At one point, I was driving a Mercury that I had for a while, and I said, hey, would you like to be mine anymore? And the car said no. I mean, it didn't like verbally say no, but I just got the sense of no, it doesn't want to. And so guess what? The following week, I loaned it to someone and they totaled it. Like the car was undrivable anymore. She was fine. Thank goodness. No one else was in the car. She was fine. And it was the other driver's fault. So here I got a nice check, right? I didn't have to do anything, just clean out the car a little bit afterwards and all my books in there. And even my husband did that, which was very nice. So I was left without a car, and I was driving. We have an SUV, which is kind of my husband's boat car. And I was driving this SUV and not really committal to a car, like what would I like to have? And I was sort of playing with different ideas. And finally I decided I would really like to have an electric car. So my husband was out at the car lot one day just for fun by himself, and he said, "Oh, Kathy, they have this electric minivan here." And I was like, "No minivan. Nope, not going to hear about it." And he was like, "It's really awesome, and it's all pimped out, and it's the only electric minivan on Maui." We live on the island of Maui, and, I think you should come check it out. And I was like, "No minivan. If you want a minivan, you can drive it. I'm not doing minivan." And I was like, wow, that's a really interesting response. It's definitely not coming from a place of neutral, right? Because if I were coming from the space of neutrality, I'd be like, "You know what, hon, I'm really not interested in a minivan, but thanks." Or maybe even have the curiosity to say, "Okay, I'll take a look at it. I'm not super into the idea of a minivan, but if you think it's that amazing, I'll take a look." I was not in the space of curiosity about it. I was definitely in resistance. I'm not a minivan driver. And so then, being the person I am, wanting to grow from every situation, I, looked at that. Okay, that was a lot of resistance. It's just a minivan. What's the big deal? And started to look at my definitions of myself and what I'm willing to be, what I'm not willing to be, what I'm kind of scared of being. And, honestly, when I became a parent, my big thing I didn't want to be was a soccer mom, right? I don't want to be, and I think minivan was part of that in some way. I don't want to be a mini driving soccer mom, right? And not that there's anything wrong with that at all, and finally when I became a soccer mom, when I had a kid in soccer, I loved it. I sat on the grass and read a book and didn't have to entertain my kid for an hour and a half. It was lovely. So I had all these preconceptions about what it meant to be a soccer mom, or what I would be able to do or not be able to do. And those were limitations, essentially. So as I looked at this, that memory of not wanting to be a soccer mom came into play. Also ideas about okay, what is fun to drive? What is easy, right? Is minivan, I could see the advantages of driving a minivan. Just throw all your stuff in. It's easy for the kids to climb in and go. So I had to really dive into, what is the resistance there? And is the resistance just because of a story of something that I don't want to be? And even that's made up, right? I know lots of people who drive minivans, and I love those people, So ultimately, I didn't end up looking at the minivan, but I did end up unpacking my story and the resistance around having a minivan being my primary vehicle. Now, the other piece to this is, even though I dropped my resistance to it, it doesn't mean I had to now buy the minivan or now have that be, my thing, or even be highly enthusiastic about having a minivan. It's just the dropping of resistance that allows us to relax into life and not have to push against. Right now, I didn't have to push against my husband and his enthusiasm for this vehicle. I could just be like, you know what, hun, it's not really for me. So in the story, then what I looked at was, okay, would a minivan really, this particular minivan, be fun for me to drive? And I could get an energetic yes or no, right? And okay, is the car I'm really interested in? By this time it was a Leaf, I had my eye on this leaf, a white leaf, with electric, what do you call it? Heated seats, which I know you wouldn't think you need that on Maui, but I'm a wuss and I like to have warmth. So I actually use my heated seats. And, you know, I ended up buying that leaf. It ended up being the car that lit up my body and made me excited to drive. So just because you drop your resistance to something, anything, doesn't mean you have to now choose that thing. And I'll talk more about that as the show goes on, because I think we have lots of resistance to being, sometimes, I mean, for me, even to being like my mother, which I will talk about later, to being like anyone we see as being a certain way that we don't want to be. And so as I had this conversation with myself and also with Laureen, who does amazing work for my business, we also just looked at like, okay, what are the things you decided are not mutually exclusive, but kind of don't go together in motherhood? And so one of the things was kind of like, well, a minivan isn't sexy, right? At least in my world. And again, I know some of you might drive one and be like, what's she talking about? But like in my stories, those two things didn't go together. And what else doesn't go together? You know, soccer mom and also being able to do all the things I want to do. And thankfully I had unpacked that a couple of years ago. But all these ideas about like what doesn't go together and what can't coexist, which are untrue, right? You can be a breastfeeding mother and wear high heels and look really hot, or you can be you can be anything. You are unlimited, only limited by those ideas of shoulds and shouldn't, cans and can'ts that so often we take on from our society, both our family and from society. So in that exploration of what can go together and what can't go together and what are my stories, came the name for this radio show, Sexy Mom, Abundant Life. Because it's like sometimes I know, and especially early on in parenting, I felt like, oh my gosh, how can I have a business that I love that's not like blogging, right? I don't want to be a mommy blogger. I tried that. That lasted about, 3 weeks or between 3 weeks and 3 months. And so, what can go together? Oh, being a mother and having a successful business is possible. Having anything that you would really like to create is possible. You might have to give and take. You might have to look at how to make it work, but it is possible. Early on when I was a parent, I was not traveling around the world to teach classes, and I didn't see a way to make that happen either, but I really desired it. Like it was something that just lit me up thinking about it. And finally I was like, okay, what would it take to find someone to watch my kids that they would enjoy as much, or maybe even more than they would enjoy me? And I got my parents on board, and they have watched my kids in such fabulous places as London and San Francisco and Chicago and Hilton Head and Maine and all over the place. And sometimes they have a blast. My kids get to have a blast. I'm laughing because I said sometimes. I mean, they're not used to having kids around all the time. But they definitely, both my kids and my parents get to have an experience of going to the Torture Museum in London and going to all these different fun places, what is it called, Ferris wheel in Chicago, and all these things together, that if I were the control freak that I had been previously and not allowed them, like not even explored, like, well, what would get me what I desire, which is to travel and facilitate, and what would get my kids what they desire, which is to have fun and be taken care of. And of course, I desire that for them too. And what would it take to have that with ease? And just by asking those questions, we found a way to accommodate that for all of us and create something that works for all of us. So as we go on in the show, I'm going to talk about having curiosity, both with your own resistance and when other people have resistance. Maybe it's your partner or spouse. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's someone else. Just getting really curious with resistance, and we'll take a look at the benefits. I have a really fun story about that, about the foreword to a book and all that my friend and teacher went through to get that foreword written by someone well known. And we'll also look at, what are you unwilling to be? And what are you resistant to, that if you would drop that, would open up greater possibilities? Because again, so often when we're not in a space of neutral or ease, we get to look at, do I have resistance here? Is this resistance just keeping me inside my comfort zone so I don't actually have to expand into a bigger life? And when we drop the resistance, we get to settle into life as it is. So thanks for listening to Sexy Mom, Abundant Life, everyone. And this is show 1, if you can believe it. So thanks for being here. And we'll be back in just a moment with some stories, some questions, getting curious. And then at the end of the show, I'll do a fun exercise with you. So stick around, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom, Abundant Life, everyone, where we explore actually not even inviting, embracing the abundance in every area of your life, because I really know that this is an abundant universe. And the only thing that can really cut us off from that is our beliefs and our thoughts and the way we're functioning. And if a thought can keep us from abundance, then we can also use thought or let go of thought to tap back into it again. And that's one of the things that we do in the Radical Abundance 8-week program. It is truly my favorite class. People create miracles in there. One guy said, Kathy, this is the first time I'm finishing the year with a surplus instead of a deficit. And I've heard people over and over say, wow, I got unexpected checks in the mail, money, as well as, abundance isn't only money. So, richer relationships. A woman in the last session said, oh my gosh, my boyfriend is greater than I would have even thought he could be. It was so easy, and he's everything I have on my list. She even took a picture of her list and sent it to me, and she said, and he's more than this. So Kathy used that as a testimonial. So anyway, if you are interested in hop in right away. There's a payment plan that just got created, but we're getting going and building momentum. So that's at meetkathyWilliams.com/Radical Abundance Online. I also have some upcoming fun, a class around flirting. Actually, next week's show is going to be the subtle art of flirting, and we'll have a special guest on there. I didn't think I was a flirt, and then, we were sitting together at lunch, and she is a flirting pro, and she just raised an eyebrow and cocked her head at me, and I was like, oh, I do flirt? So come next week, you and I will both learn something, and not only that, it's fun. It was totally fun to sit at lunch with her and be like, wow, okay. I definitely learned a lot about eye contact and presence and so much. I also have a class called Leap Out of Bed Life. It's not exactly titled that, but it's something like that. And I didn't have one years and years ago. I had a life in which I was like, oh my, I have to go in today. I was a stress ball. So these classes, all the upcoming classes, you can find at meetkathyWilliams.com/upcoming. So, and meetkathyWilliams.com is also where you can write to me and let me know about show ideas. And you guys are also welcome to call in. So if you go to iom.fm right now, you can call in and ask a question about resistance. I would love to be here with you and do some facilitation if you have things coming up around this topic. Or if you have resistance to calling in, maybe you ought to call in. So anyway, the phone number is at iom.fm, where you can always find out what the next show will be, and you can find replays as well. You can also find a little bit more about me there if you're curious. So anyway, I said that I was going to tell you a story, and this story is about really having the curiosity and the audacity to keep asking and keep going for what you want, even when the other person has resistance. And I know maybe it's my background of growing up in the Midwest and kind of being a people pleaser. Sometimes when someone says no or that they're too busy, I back off. Like I just, oh, okay. Whereas my husband, who has a little, and I've learned this from him over the years, but has a little bit more tenacity, and he'll be like, oh, well, how else could I get it? And where else could I look for the price that I want? Or are you sure you're not willing to come down? Or and on YouTube, I tell this amazing story of how this hotel room was supposed to be $600 a night, and we ended up getting it for about $200. Oceanfront amazingness. So if you I have a YouTube channel that I love, and it is, if you look up Kathy Williams and Kathy Williams Public Figure, you'll find all those videos there. I just love doing videos, and you can subscribe to get the latest updates. So this story is a story about my friend and teacher, Michael Neal. He's the author of a book called Creating the Impossible and many other books, including Super Coach. I attended his Super Coach Academy in 2016, and he loves to tell this story because it really is a story about both plugging on in resistance and also that sometimes the things on your plate are not as big as you make them out to be. So he was creating this book, writing this book called Feel Happy Now, or is it called You Can Be Happy? Well, one or the other, something like that. And he really wanted the author and researcher Candace Pert to write the foreword. And if you remember who she is, she studied a lot about emotion and wrote the book Molecules of Emotion. So he had met her once briefly for like 5 minutes. But nonetheless, he endeavored to contact her and ask her if she would write the foreword. And he said, I'll send you some of the book. And she was like, oh no, I'm much too busy. I'm on this congressional committee, and I'm too busy for, to write the foreword right now. Or I have to influence this congressman and give him information and stuff like that. And Michael, he said, I just remember hearing the words come out of my mouth. Well, whatever it takes, whatever's on your plate, I will be your personal, what is it called? I want to say servant, but it's not servant. Your personal assistant to get everything you need done while you take the time to read my book, and write the foreword. And she was like, really? And he said, yeah. So she said, well, what I really want is for you to call this congressman and tell him I'm not going to do this anymore. So Michael was like, okay. And she gives him the phone number, and he called, and he said, I'm calling for Candace Pert, and she's not going to be able to be advising you anymore. And the guy was like, what? No, she can't do that. And he started to get antagonistic and upset about it. And Michael said, you know what, sir? It doesn't matter what you say. Nothing is going to influence this choice. I'm just the messenger. And so, he was done with that. He wiped his brow because it was kind of intense, and he could barely believe that he had called a congressperson and a senator, and told him this. So he called Candace back, and he said, done. You're off that committee. And she said, what? She was so incredulous. She was like, okay, here are these other things I need you to do. And she gave him all these other things. And so just before we go on, in this story, the first piece I'd like you to recognize is for her to get off that committee, all it required was to make a phone call. She could have done that. It takes like 5 minutes. But so often in our head, we're resistant to something. I don't want to call. They're going to say this. They're going to be upset with me. She could have called, and it would have taken like 5 minutes, and she could have said the same thing. You know what? Anything you say is not going to influence my decision in this. Thanks. I wish I had time for it. Goodbye. But it was a big deal in her world. So what in your world, we're going to keep going with the story, but before we do, what in your world is a big deal that's actually not? It's just a big deal because you have so much thinking about it. What if you let go of all the extraneous stuff on it, would end up taking 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 1 hour. But it's not such a huge deal. It's only a big deal in your own head. And then sometimes it's, can I delegate that thing, right? Like she delegated this phone call that was so challenging to her to Michael Neal. So who could you delegate that to? Or could you just buckle up and do it, right? And sometimes when we buckle up and buckle down, right, and do those things, like it relieves so much that we have so much energy freed up to really do the fun thing, right? Like Brian Tracy has a whole book dedicated to, or called Eat That Frog, right? The idea is if you have a frog to eat, do it in the morning so you're not thinking about it all day long. And then if you have to eat a frog, if you wait till 6 p.m., so much energy and dread and like, eat is going in that direction. Whereas if you just do it in the morning and get it over with, it's so much energy is freed. And a question to ask is now the time? But if we feel a heaviness to that, we have to ask, is that heavy or is that just resistance? I really don't want to make this phone call, yet I know on the other side of it, life is going to be greater, right? What will my future be like if I choose this? And if there's a lightness, an ease to it, then choose it and do it. And is now the time? So a lot of times, people who have learned to function from light and heavy, light being, oh yeah, this is expansive, it feels on, then heavy being, it's contracted, it doesn't feel right. We need to ask more questions about that contraction. It's not just oh no, don't do it. It's, is this resistance? Or is now just not the time? Or, do I have to get more information before I do this? And so get super curious when something is heavy. Don't automatically think that heavy means no and light means yes, right? And if you have questions about that, please write in. I can do a whole show on light and heavy and making choices from the energy of something rather than from your head. Because when we're making choices from our head, it requires figuring out. But you, on some level, are so much more than your brain that on some level you have knowing, and you just know. You don't have to figure things out. And the light and heavy tool can be a huge boon to that. So, okay, so going on with the Michael Neal story, here he's done some of the different tasks for Candace, and it's getting down to like the day before this book needs to be in and complete, and the foreword needs to be there. And Michael's like, okay, I will write a foreword, and then you can change it around as much as you want to make it you, and I want to make this as easy as possible for you. And she's like, you know what? Sorry, I don't have time, right? This is down to the wire. Maybe it wasn't the day before, but it was really down to the wire. And all of a sudden, Michael remembered, oh, in that few minutes that I met her, she mentioned that she really has a thing for Sawyer on Lost. If any of you have ever seen the show Lost, really fun show that was around like in 2015, 2016, something like that. I'm sure you can find it on Netflix. So she has a thing for him. Well, I know someone who works on the set of Hawaii, of Lost or in Hawaii, and let me just see if I could get her a signed picture. So he called up his friend, and he said, I would love to have a signed picture if you could get that to me. And I need it by tomorrow. If you could overnight that to me, or to her, really, I would really love that. And so he did. He got a signed picture of Sawyer for her, and had a sticky note saying, please. And she did. She wrote the foreword to his book, and she said to Michael later, Michael, my husband hates it, but that signed picture of Sawyer on Lost is sitting on my mantle in my living room. So she got the foreword finished. She got what she wanted, right? A signed picture of Sawyer. She didn't ask for it, but she got that. And Michael got what he desired, which was the foreword to his book written by her. And it was all through persistence and working through the resistance. What's keeping you from helping me? Oh, time. Okay, well, I'll be your personal assistant to take care of that, right? Now what's keeping you? Okay, let me see what I can do to persuade you gently to really do this for me. And he did. And if you read that book, her foreword is in there to this day. So where have you maybe not been as audacious in asking someone about their resistance and helping move through it? And we'll talk more about like regular family scenarios when we get back, or partner and other scenarios, and even with ourselves. We'll discuss some questions to ask and things you can start to look at in your own life to really delve in and expand beyond the resistance. Because when we get beyond resistance, so much energy is freed up. All right, time for another break, everybody. Thanks so much for being here with me on Sexy Mom Abundant Life.
Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life with best-selling author and coach Kathy Williams, a show to help you. The future of internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living, a chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm Kathy Williams, and if you didn't hear earlier, this is day one of the show. I've been on the radio for years and years on Imperfect Brilliance radio show, and in the summer, I just kept getting this nudge to create something new, and actually, I had a little resistance, and our topic today is resistance. I had a little resistance to telling my co-host, hey, it's time for me to move on, because I had a co-host previously, and it took a little while, And I had to look at that resistance and just, jump, ask, how can she hear this? What way can I say it such that it will be received? And, a lot of times when we are making a change in a relationship, and this wasn't even a romantic one, but in a relationship, sometimes we do have resistance to creating that change because we don't want the other person to hurt. We don't want them to be upset. We know that they're kind of happy with the way things are, so, or if not happy, comfortable with the way things are. Sometimes even if we're not happy, we're comfortable. And so there could be a little resistance to making a change. And, it was just about, okay, how can she hear this? How can I say this in a way that will work for both of us and that will create greater possibilities? So exploring questions like that, I find so useful when I have resistance to a conversation. And then that question that I mentioned earlier, is now the time? Because sometimes it's really not. Maybe that week their dog died, or that week they're already having a lot going on, and so it's not the time. And by just asking the question, is now the time, if there's a sense of lightness, then go do it. And if it's a sense of contraction or heaviness in your chest or in your world, okay, what is that? Okay, is it my resistance? Is it that it's not the time? Okay, I'll explore it tomorrow. Is it later today? So more questions, diving in, exploring, taking a look. What other questions could I ask here? So we'll play with some questions, and then we'll do a little exercise as we get toward the end of this show. So, if you're a parent and you have kids in school, sometimes there will be resistance to going to school. And my son had that at the beginning of the year. He's in a new classroom with a new teacher. He's in first grade. And he was starting to develop, quote, headaches, right? Not a real headache, but like, oh, I don't feel well, or oh, I have a headache, or oh, I'm too tired, and they would only come on weekdays. So I knew, got to be something to do with school. It wouldn't be so much I don't want to go, but definitely, oh, I don't feel well. So I asked him, how is everything at school? What's going on? Do you just not want to go to school? And I didn't ask in a pushy way, but just sort of out of curiosity, because people respond much better to a space of openness and curiosity. And ultimately it came up that he didn't like recess. So what about recess? Oh, well, all the girls are doing a play, and all the boys, he's in a Montessori school, and he's the only first grade boy. So all the boys are, playing some game that I'm not a part of. Oh, okay. So you don't like to do recess. Is there something that you, is there someone else who's not playing any of those things? No, everyone's kind of taken. Would you like to be in the play? No, not really. So I got in touch with his teacher and told her the situation, and she asked if there's something he would rather do at recess time. And to her surprise, he said, I'd like to do writing. So he took his notebook out and sat near her at recess time and practiced his cursive. And he loves it. He loves language. He loves writing things and doing his journal. And so he got rid of the problem with not wanting to go to school. right? And just through curiosity, just through looking at, okay, he's resistant to going to school. What is that? And what I love about this is that it was never a push or a force like, well, you have to go to school anyway, so, just put on your clothes and do it. It was really like, what's going on for you? And like we need that with ourselves, it's important to do that with others too, with an attitude of interest and curiosity. My husband has huge resistance to moving, and I asked him about that, and we're not going to move anytime soon. We live in a paradise, but it was just like, there's a lot of resistance in there. What is that? What's your past experience with moving? Because, when we have resistance, often it's just because our past is projected onto our future. Our past experiences coloring how we would expect the next situation to be as well. All right. So I want to take you into a little exercise. It's been a lot of talking and stories. And if you have the space to close your eyes, go ahead and do that. The end part of each show, like after the second break, we'll often do an exercise. It might be more of an energy thing. It might be more of a guided meditation. It might be an inquiry like this. So today's will be an inquiry, and all of them will be a little different. So if you don't like this one, you might love the next one. And you may like to have a piece of paper, although it's not necessary. And go ahead and just tap into something in your life. Maybe it's a situation. Maybe it's a person you have resistance with. And tap into that resistance and just feel it for a moment. And what is the gift in this resistance? What is it trying to keep you from? What is it trying to prevent? So let's bring a quality of thankfulness to this resistance. You may even like to thank it. Sometimes it's out of protection. Sometimes it's we don't want the past to repeat itself. Sometimes it's, I don't want to be like that person, right? So let's just explore what would happen if you drop the resistance. Okay, notice anything that comes up. If you just drop it. Some of you have different ways of clearing things. You can use whatever clearing tools you have. You could collapse that back to free-flowing energy. Who am I without the resistance? And who am I on the other side of this situation? So if I'm resistant to making a phone call, if I'm resistant to being with my in-law, if I'm resistant, okay, if I drop the resistance, who am I on the other side of this situation? Let's say it's all said and done. Are you celebrating? See, when you look for the gift in the resistance, you're shining your flashlight of your awareness in that direction. Let me find the gift. Okay. When you're asking, who am I on the other side of this situation? Like, who is your more evolved self? And what is that like? Right? And what awareness could you have? What awareness do you have now because you've dropped the resistance? What are the other possibilities? And sometimes it helps to settle our bodies, you know, feel your feet on the ground or your butt in the chair or on the bed or whatever it is, like really settling, softening into this moment. Because so often when we have resistance, we're somewhat in the future with our preconceived ideas about how things are going to be. So we're pulling ourselves back into right now. And the breath that you're breathing in the space of ease that's available. What's possible with this situation, with this person, if I no longer have resistance and I'm showing up and I'm curious and I'm responding to life as it is. And that could even be, you know, situation with your kids where you're like, I hate mornings. or I hate my son's girlfriend. Whatever it is. Well, if you relax that resistance, what other way could you have of being with them? What other ideas could pop in such that you could have more ease and joy and fun? What would be available so that you could create something that works for all of you? Like Michael Neal in his book writing situation with his foreword. You know, it created greater for everyone. See, things are only a problem when we've decided they're a problem. Otherwise, life is just full of possibilities. And even in the problem, there are possibilities, and there's an invitation to greater awareness, greater expansion, greater creation. So what are the gifts in the resistance in your life? And I always love to ask, you know, if I would just step into the resistance, if I would just do it, what future will be created? And it's about the energy. It's not about, oh, this, and this will happen, right, from conclusion, but really, you know, what kind of future will it create? An expansive future or a contracted future? And like I said, delegation can be a huge tool. I was in one of Michael Neal's classes in which he said, okay, guys, what's preventing you from getting what you really want? Like what things do you have to do, right? And so we wrote down all these lists of what we had to do. Email this person, call this person, set this up on lead pages, fix my website, all this stuff. And then he said, okay, pair up. Now give your list to the other person and have them go do as much of it as they can. Man, that was amazing to me because the other girl knew lead pages, right? She could do things I didn't like to do. I had resistance to. And so another question is, how could I make that easy and fun, right? But sometimes it is about delegating. You know, and she got a bunch of things that would have taken me twice or 3 times as long, and then, you know, I was able to help someone else with other things. And it's just like, again, sometimes the resistance is just a story, a collection of thoughts in our head, and the actual act in the world, just doing it, like Nike says, is so much easier without so much on it. Or if you'd rather have someone delegate it, cool. What things could you trade out? What things could you hire someone for? What things could someone else do better than you can? Thanks for listening, everyone. I'm really grateful for you. And please, again, call in, tell me your show ideas. Or call in, get some facilitation. Email me, magicalkathy@outlook.com, and I'll be here every week on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, and also on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite places. So if you like this show, please write us a review so other people can find it. All right, everybody. Have a great week.